When it comes to love, people express obsession and attachment in drastically different ways. Some wear their hearts on their sleeves, openly texting, calling, expressing, pursuing. But others, especially those with avoidant attachment styles, bury their emotions beneath layers of emotional distance, self-protection, and controlled detachment. On the surface, they may seem calm, independent, or even uninterested. But underneath, a storm often brews, one that hides feelings far deeper than they let on. Avoidants are not emotionless. In fact, they often feel things intensely. They just don't know how to process or express those emotions in a healthy, direct way. For avoidant individuals, closeness can be terrifying. It threatens their sense of emotional safety. They fear dependence, vulnerability, and the risk of being hurt or abandoned. So instead of reaching out, they retreat. Instead of confessing feelings, they mask them. And instead of expressing obsession through constant communication, they engage in quieter, more subtle behaviors that, to the untrained eye, may seem like nothing at all. But if you look closely, you'll start to notice a pattern, a trail of silent signs that reveal just how deeply they are affected. They'll disappear for days, only to reappear with a weak excuse. They'll remember details you forgot you shared. They'll watch every story, like every post, ask mutual friends about your life, and bring up inside jokes at the most unexpected times. They'll act indifferent in person, but their body language will tell you otherwise. All of this stems from a place of silent obsession, where they are drawn to you but afraid to be seen wanting you too much. This push-pull dynamic is exhausting, both for them and for anyone trying to love them. Understanding these subtle signs isn't about overanalyzing every action. It's about recognizing emotional patterns that reveal the truth behind the mask. If you've ever been confused by someone who keeps you at arm's length yet never truly lets go, chances are you've encountered someone with avoidant tendencies. And if they're showing any of these signs, they may be far more obsessed than they'll ever admit. 1. They keep showing up where you are, but act like it's a coincidence. When someone with avoidant attachment is secretly obsessed with you, they may often appear in the same places as you, yet act like it's purely by chance. On the surface, it might look coincidental. They show up at your favorite cafe, attend a mutual friends gathering, or accidentally cross paths at the gym or bookstore. But when this pattern repeats often enough, it becomes clear there's more going on beneath the surface. Avoidants typically struggle with vulnerability, so they don't like to express their emotions directly. Instead, they manage their desire for closeness in subtle, indirect ways. One of these ways is physically placing themselves near you. It gives them a sense of proximity and connection without requiring them to initiate conversation or admit their feelings. They get to observe you, feel near you, and satisfy their inner obsession, while maintaining their emotional distance. Even if they say things like, "Oh, I didn't know you'd be here," or "funny running into you again," the body language might betray them. They'll glance at you when they think you're not looking or try to position themselves close enough to hear your voice or join the conversation if someone else initiates it. It's a calculated dance. They are drawn to you but afraid of being seen as vulnerable or needy. This behavior reflects their internal conflict. They crave closeness, but their fear of intimacy and rejection prevents them from being direct. So instead, they rely on coincidences to fulfill their desire for connection, hoping you'll notice them or take the first step. It's subtle, confusing, and emotionally loaded, but unmistakable once you recognize the pattern. 2. They watch your stories or check your posts immediately, even if they don't message. Avoidants may struggle to express their feelings openly, but their behavior online often reveals what they try to hide. One of the clearest signs they're secretly obsessed with you is how quickly they engage with your content, especially your stories or posts. Even if they don't comment, like, or message you directly, they're almost always one of the first people to view whatever you share. This is their silent way of staying connected. Social media gives them a low-risk way to keep you in their orbit without having to confront the vulnerability that comes with actual conversation. They may not have the courage or emotional openness to initiate a chat, but they still want to see what you're doing, who you're with, and how you're feeling. Watching your stories is a way for them to feel close to you from a distance. It gives them updates on your life, what you wore, where you went, even what you're thinking, without requiring any emotional risk on their part. This behavior isn't random. It's consistent and often obsessive. The immediacy with which they view your content is telling. It shows you on their mind more than they'll admit. They may even turn on post notifications for you or check your profile multiple times a day. Still, they stay silent, because reaching out would mean stepping outside the emotional armor they've built to protect themselves from rejection or intimacy. So, while they may seem cold or distant in real life, their online patterns reveal a different truth. Their obsession slips through in quiet, passive ways they think you won't notice. But once you understand avoidant behavior, these little signs speak volumes. 3. They get jealous when you mention others but try to hide it with sarcasm or silence. Avoidants have a hard time dealing with their own emotions, especially when it comes to jealousy. When they're secretly obsessed with you but haven't expressed it, hearing you talk about other people, especially potential romantic interests, triggers a quiet storm inside them. But instead of expressing their feelings directly, they mask it with sarcasm, awkward jokes, or complete silence. It's their way of managing discomfort without exposing vulnerability. For example, if you mention going out with someone new, they might respond with a sarcastic comment like, "Well, sounds like you've got quite the lineup," followed by a forced laugh. They pretend they don't care, but their tone, body language, or sudden withdrawal speaks differently. In some cases, they might go completely quiet, suddenly disinterested or distracted, avoiding eye contact or changing the subject quickly. This emotional retreat is a defense mechanism. They don't want you to see how much it bothers them. Their jealousy is real, but their avoidant nature won't allow them to express it in healthy or open ways. They often don't even fully admit it to themselves. Instead, they try to regain control by downplaying your importance or acting unbothered. But these passive-aggressive signs, sarcastic remarks, mood shifts, emotional distance, reveal what they're struggling to hide. At the core, they are scared of rejection or competition. They want to be close, but their fear of needing someone or being hurt makes them suppress those feelings. So when jealousy arises, it leaks out in confusing, indirect ways. If you're not paying attention, you might miss it. But once you recognize the signs, it becomes clear. They care far more than they are willing to admit. 4. They remember every little detail you mention, even months later. One of the clearest signs an avoidant is secretly obsessed with you is their ability to remember even the smallest details you've mentioned, often months after the conversation took place. While they may seem emotionally distant or uninterested on the surface, their memory says otherwise. They'll recall things you casually mentioned in passing, like your favorite snack, a stressful event at work, a movie you wanted to see, or the name of a childhood pet. And they'll bring it up when you least expect it. This behavior shows that, despite their attempts to appear detached, they are paying close attention to you. It's their quiet way of staying emotionally connected while still keeping up the appearance of distance. Avoidants often struggle to express affection directly, so they hold on to information as a substitute for more open forms of intimacy. It's how they stay emotionally involved, silently, obsessively, and on their own terms. For someone avoidant, remembering these details is a form of emotional investment. They may not message you often or be expressive with words, but their sharp recall of your preferences, habits, or stories is not accidental. They think about you more than they let on, and these details become little anchors of emotional significance they hold on to. It can be especially telling when they remember something small and bring it up during a moment of connection, or even during a random interaction. It may feel surprising, even confusing, considering how distant they sometimes act. But it reveals the truth behind the mask. They care deeply, and they've been quietly paying attention all along. Their silence doesn't mean apathy. It often means fear, complexity, and emotions they don't yet know how to handle. 5. They disappear for a while but always come back with an excuse. Avoidants often struggle with intimacy and emotional closeness, so when their feelings for someone start to intensify, their instinct is to retreat. They may suddenly disappear, stop texting, avoid meetups, or go completely silent for days or even weeks. This vanishing act isn't because they've lost interest. On the contrary, it often means they are feeling overwhelmed by how much they care. Their way of dealing with these uncomfortable emotions is by creating distance. But the telling part is that they always come back. And when they do, it's usually with a casual excuse. Been really busy, just needed to clear my head, or work's been crazy lately. These explanations often sound generic, and sometimes they don't quite add up. The truth is, they're not trying to deceive you maliciously. They're trying to protect themselves from feeling exposed or rejected. Disappearing helps them regain a sense of emotional control. This cycle of withdrawal and return is typical for someone with avoidant tendencies who is secretly obsessed. Their fear of vulnerability pushes them away, but their emotional attachment pulls them back. They don't want to lose the connection, but they are afraid of what it might mean to fully engage. So they hover in this space, close enough to feel something, distant enough to feel safe. What makes this pattern emotionally confusing is the inconsistency. You may feel abandoned one week and then surprised when they suddenly reappear like nothing happened. But if you pay attention, the pattern itself is the message. Their returns are not random. They are pulled back by emotions they are struggling to suppress. Disappearing may be their defense, but coming back is their quiet confession. 6. They ask mutual friends about you instead of asking you directly. Avoidants are often deeply conflicted when it comes to emotional connection. They may feel strongly about someone, but hesitate to show it directly. One subtle sign they're secretly obsessed is that they start asking mutual friends about you. What you're up to, who you're spending time with, how you're doing, but they avoid asking you themselves. This indirect approach lets them stay informed and emotionally connected without having to risk vulnerability or rejection. By going through friends, they create a safe emotional buffer. They satisfy their curiosity and need for closeness, but without exposing their feelings. They may casually slip your name into conversations, pretending it's just small talk, but their questions are usually pointed. Is she seeing anyone? Is he still working at that place? Did she go to that trip she mentioned? These aren't random. They're signs they are thinking about you more than they want to admit. This behavior reflects their fear of confrontation and emotional exposure. Asking you directly might lead to a deeper conversation or reveal their emotional investment, something they're not yet ready for. So they use mutual friends as a mirror, a way to look into your life while staying hidden. They may even give mixed signals to those friends, acting indifferent while still seeking information. In truth, this indirect communication reveals a strong emotional pull. They care. They think about you. They want to know if you're still emotionally available. But their avoidant tendencies hold them back from being straightforward. So instead, they circle around your orbit through others, quietly hoping to stay connected while keeping their guard intact. It's a silent obsession wrapped in emotional self-protection. 7. They find indirect ways to stay in touch, like replying to old messages or commenting on something random. Avoidants often have a hard time maintaining direct, consistent communication, especially when their feelings grow deeper. But when they're secretly obsessed with you, they'll find indirect ways to stay in touch that feel safe to them. Instead of reaching out with a clear message like "I miss you" or "How are you doing?", they might suddenly reply to an old text, react to a meme you sent weeks ago, or comment on something random you posted online. It seems casual on the surface, but it's actually a carefully chosen way of keeping the connection alive. These small interactions allow them to test the waters without fully exposing their emotions. For example, they might respond to a story about your dog or send a laughing emoji to a post you shared days ago. They might even ask a question they already know the answer to, just to start a conversation. Their goal isn't always the content, it's the connection. But because avoidants fear vulnerability, they wrap that desire in something that seems low stakes and impersonal. To someone who doesn't know the pattern, it can be confusing. One moment, they are silent. The next, they are suddenly interested in something trivial. But to the avoidant, this is a controlled way to stay emotionally close. They can break the silence without having to say anything too real, too risky, or too revealing. These indirect touches are their way of saying, "I'm still here." even if they can't say it out loud. It's their quiet form of consistency, keeping a thread alive while managing the fear that comes with real intimacy. If these random messages or comments happen more than once, especially after periods of distance, it's a strong sign they're thinking about you more than they let on. 8. They act cold in person, but their body language betrays nervous energy or attraction. Avoidants are masters at appearing emotionally distant, especially in face-to-face interactions. When they're secretly obsessed with someone, they often go out of their way to act indifferent or even cold. They may avoid eye contact, speak in short sentences, or seem disinterested in the conversation. But if you look closely, their body language tells a different story, one filled with nervous energy, tension, and subtle signs of attraction they can't fully hide. They might fidget with their hands, tap their fingers, shift their posture, or glance at you when they think you're not looking. Their voice may waver slightly when you touch on emotional topics, or they might blush when complimented, even if they brush it off with sarcasm. Their body might lean toward you unconsciously, even while their words create emotional distance. These subtle cues show they're emotionally affected, even when they try to seem unaffected. This contradiction, cool words, warm signals, is a clear giveaway of inner conflict. They want to be close, but they are scared. Acting cold is their protective shield, a defense mechanism they've learned to rely on. But physical reactions aren't as easy to control, especially when emotions run deep. That's why their real feelings leak through in nervous gestures, quick glances, sudden shifts in energy, and accidental smiles they quickly hide. The result is a confusing mix of signals. They'll say one thing, but their body will say another. To an observant person, it's clear they're not indifferent. They're overwhelmed. Being near you makes them feel exposed, and their avoidant instincts kick in. But no matter how hard they try to hide behind emotional walls, their body language often betrays the truth. They care more than they want to admit. 9. They open up emotionally once, then retreat fast, but you can tell it meant something. Avoidants typically guard their emotions tightly, but when they're secretly obsessed with you, there's often a moment, a rare, vulnerable opening, when they let their guard down and share something real. It might be a personal story, a past hurt, or a brief admission of how much they enjoy being around you. For that one moment, their walls drop, and you see the depth of their emotions. But almost as quickly as it happens, they pull away. They retreat emotionally, change the subject, go silent, or disappear altogether. This push-pull dynamic is classic avoidant behavior. That emotional opening wasn't an accident. It meant something. It was raw, unfiltered, and honest, but also deeply uncomfortable for them. Vulnerability feels unsafe, so after exposing themselves, even just a little, they feel the need to take back control. The retreat isn't rejection, it's self-protection. They fear being seen too clearly, being hurt, or losing emotional control. You might notice that after this moment of connection, they become distant or cold. They might even act as if it never happened. But if you bring it up, they may get defensive or uncomfortable. Still, you'll know by the way they shared it, and the way their energy shifted, that it came from a real place. These rare glimpses into their emotional world are important. They show that behind the guarded exterior is someone who feels deeply but doesn't yet know how to navigate closeness. Their retreat isn't the end. It's a sign that your presence is impacting them more than they want to admit. When avoidants care deeply, they don't show it with consistent words or affection. They show it in flashes of realness followed by silence. But in those flashes, you see the truth they're trying to hide. 10. They notice small changes in your appearance but pretend not to care. When an avoidant is secretly obsessed with you, they often notice every little change in your appearance. Whether it's a new haircut, a different style of clothing, or even a subtle change in your mood reflected through how you dress. But instead of complimenting you or acknowledging it directly, they act like they didn't even see it. Or worse, they might mention it in a backhanded or joking way, trying to mask their interest with indifference. Their silence isn't because they didn't notice, it's because they noticed too much. They are hyper-aware of you, paying close attention to details most people overlook. But avoidants fear showing their cards. Expressing admiration or curiosity feels risky, too intimate. So they suppress it. They'll replay your outfit or new look in their mind later. But in the moment, they'll either say nothing or deflect it with sarcasm. Sometimes they might make a casual comment that seems neutral on the surface but reveals a deeper awareness. Didn't you used to wear your hair differently? Or you're dressing kind of fancy today? These remarks may sound offhand, but they come from someone who's paying far more attention than they're letting on. Avoidants don't express affection or attraction easily. They prefer control, emotional safety, and distance. But when their obsession with you grows, their awareness of you heightens. They see everything. You just won't hear it from them. Their effort to appear unaffected is often the biggest sign of how affected they truly are. It's not that they don't care. It's that they care so much, they feel the need to pretend they don't. 11. They become distant right after a moment of closeness. When an avoidant is secretly obsessed with you, one of the most confusing patterns you'll notice is how they pull away right after a moment of emotional closeness. You might have had a deep conversation, shared a laugh, or even had a vulnerable moment together that felt meaningful. In that instant, it seems like they are finally opening up, letting their guard down. But soon after, sometimes the very next day, they become cold, distant, or completely unavailable. This sudden shift isn't random. For avoidance, intimacy can feel both deeply desired and deeply threatening. When they get too close, even by accident, it triggers their internal fear of vulnerability or losing control. Emotional closeness makes them feel exposed, and that discomfort pushes them to retreat. Distancing themselves becomes their way of regaining emotional safety. They might not even understand their own behavior. After an intimate exchange, they could suddenly stop texting, avoid eye contact, or seem uninterested in continuing the connection. They are not trying to hurt you or play games. In fact, their withdrawal often comes from emotional overload. They felt too much, too fast, and now they are trying to suppress it. This cycle of closeness followed by retreat is a signature of someone with avoidant tendencies who cares more than they let on. That moment of connection wasn't fake, it was real. But so is their fear of where it might lead. Their obsession is hidden behind this emotional seesaw. They want connection, but they also fear the pain, loss, or dependency that might come with it. So after every step forward, they instinctively take 2 steps back. 12. They get oddly defensive when you talk about moving on. When someone with avoidant tendencies is secretly obsessed with you, they may act like they're indifferent or detached. But the moment you bring up moving on, whether it's dating someone new, leaving town, or emotionally letting go, they can suddenly become oddly defensive. Their reaction might catch you off guard, especially since they've worked so hard to appear like they don't care. But this defensiveness is a strong clue that they are far more emotionally invested than they let on. They might respond with sarcasm, irritation, or dismissive comments like, "Do whatever you want," or "I figured you'd move on anyway." Underneath those cold words is discomfort, even panic. Mentioning your future without them activates their fear of losing emotional control. You're forcing them to confront the possibility that they can no longer passively stay connected from a safe emotional distance. This defensiveness isn't always loud. It can also show up in subtle ways. They might get quiet, withdraw, or change the subject abruptly. They might even throw the conversation back at you, questioning your intentions or accusing you of trying to make them jealous. What's really happening is that their internal fear and hidden attachment are being exposed, and they don't know how to handle the emotional tension. Avoidants struggle with direct emotional expression, so instead of saying, "I don't want you to leave," they push back with walls. But that reaction is deeply revealing. If they truly didn't care, your plans to move on wouldn't affect them at all. The fact that they get defensive shows that they've been emotionally attached all along. It just takes a threat to that attachment for the truth to surface. 13. They try to impress you subtly. New look, success updates, or sudden confidence. When an avoidant is secretly obsessed with you, they often won't express it through direct compliments or emotional conversations. Instead, they try to get your attention in subtle, indirect ways, one of the clearest being their efforts to impress you. You may notice they suddenly update their style, start hitting the gym, mention recent accomplishments, or carry themselves with a new air of confidence, but they won't openly say it's for you. These changes are intentional. Whether it's dressing better when they know they'll see you, casually mentioning a promotion, or talking about new goals they're working on, it's all designed to make you notice them. But because avoidants fear vulnerability, they'll never admit they're doing it for your attention. Instead, they pretend it's just part of their normal life while watching closely to see how you react. They may also seek validation through your praise, but in a roundabout way. They'll mention something like, "I've been working on something new lately," and pause, hoping you'll ask questions or show admiration. If you do, their guarded exterior may crack for just a second with a slight smile or shift in tone. It's their way of trying to connect without fully opening up. At its core, this behavior reflects their internal conflict. They want to feel desired, admired, and worthy in your eyes, but they are afraid of looking like they care too much. So they hide their obsession behind personal upgrades and accomplishments, hoping you'll notice and be impressed. It's not about arrogance. It's about silently asking, "Do I matter to you too?" without ever having to say it out loud. 14. They bring up inside jokes or shared memories out of nowhere. Avoidants may appear emotionally distant, but when they're secretly obsessed with you, their attachment surfaces in quiet, unexpected ways, like bringing up inside jokes or shared memories out of the blue. Even if they've been distant for a while, they might suddenly reference something only the two of you would understand. A joke you once laughed at together, a random moment from a past conversation, or a place you both visited. This isn't just nostalgia. It's a subtle signal that you're still on their mind. These callbacks serve a purpose. They allow the avoidant to create a sense of emotional closeness without having to express their feelings directly. It's safer for them to say, "Remember when we got lost that day," than to say, "I miss you." Inside jokes and shared memories are their way of holding onto the connection while staying behind emotional walls. It gives them comfort, a sense that the bond is still there, even if they don't know how to nurture it openly. They might casually drop these references into conversation as if they're meaningless, but their timing often reveals more. It usually happens when they are feeling especially vulnerable, nostalgic, or afraid of losing you. It's their version of emotional breadcrumbs, small, familiar tokens meant to draw you back in without ever admitting how much they care. To most people, it may seem like a harmless memory, but when it comes from someone avoidant, it's often a deeper sign of longing. It shows they've been thinking about your time together, replaying it, and holding on to it as something meaningful. And while they may not say what they truly feel, their need to revisit those private, shared moments says more than words ever could. 15. They seem to have trouble letting go, even if they act like they already have. One of the most telling signs that an avoidant is secretly obsessed with you is their inability to truly let go, even when they act like they have. On the surface, they may appear detached, moving on with their life, dating other people, or acting indifferent when your name comes up. But underneath that emotional armor, they are still deeply attached. You'll notice it in the way they linger around your social circle, randomly reappear in your life, or continue to keep tabs on you through mutual friends or online. Their words might say, "It's over," or "I'm fine," but their actions don't always match. They may pop up unexpectedly with a text, check your stories regularly, or bring you up in conversation in subtle ways. Sometimes they'll re-enter your life for no apparent reason, just to test the waters, to see if they still matter to you. And when you respond with warmth or attention, it's clear that they never really left emotionally. This lingering attachment is often unspoken. Avoidants struggle with emotional expression and vulnerability, so instead of saying they miss you or regret how things ended, they show it in ways that are confusing and indirect. They might sabotage new connections or hold everyone else at a distance because no one quite compares to you. It's not that they haven't moved on physically. It's that emotionally, they're still stuck. Their difficulty in letting go stems from the very feelings they try hardest to avoid. Obsession doesn't always look like begging or pleading. It can look like silence, distance, or pretending not to care while being quietly haunted by the connection. So while they may act like they've closed the chapter, the truth is often written between the lines. They never really put the book down.